here in person in this great service, and also welcome those watching online by live stream today. And we're very excited. Next Sunday, our hope is that we'll be able to now live stream the full service, the music and everything. So even if you're not here, you get to see all of it. Yeah, can we give the Lord thanks for that? That's great. And it will be a special day next week, Mother's Day. Now, if you've not been here for Mother's Day at the Ministry Center before, here's how we do it around here. We will encourage you, if you have children, mom, or if you have a parent perhaps that's not in church, doesn't know the Lord, get them here next Sunday. We use Mother's Day as an opportunity to get people to come to church. It might not always come to church, and we want you to encourage you to invite people to be here. They're going to hear a message of hope next week, and like we do every year at Mother's Day, we're going to see some people accept Jesus on Mother's Day. So we're excited about that. And today, is Pastor Appreciation Day, and I want to thank you again for your kindness to me and my family. It just goes beyond words, really, how great y'all are to us. And this morning, as part of that, I have a very dear friend here to preach the word of the Lord to you. Last month, when Pastor Lee preached, I talked about spiritual fathers and the importance of how in a normal, natural family you have a father and how spiritually we need those people in our lives. But I've learned in most families, it's not just that you have a father. Normally, most families have what I affectionately call a fun uncle. A person that is further along in the journey than you, that you respect, that you learn from, but at the very same time, they get you into situations that you would otherwise never find yourself in. Well, today, the man coming to preach to you today is the one I affectionately call my spiritual fun uncle. Love and appreciate him so much, and he's a mess, as you're about to see. Pastor Robin Rotgers. He pastors the Greater Vision Church in Troy, one of the strongest churches of God in the state of Tennessee. It's actually the largest church of God in western Tennessee. He also serves on the state council, and beyond any of that, he's one of the finest humans I've ever known. There's no one I'd rather have in the pulpit this morning than him. He hardly ever leaves his church to preach anywhere, but he agreed to come and preach here today. And it's a big deal for me, and it's a big deal for our church, and I'm just so honored. Would you join me in welcoming today the pastor of Greater Vision Church, Pastor Robin Rotgers.
Here we go, Drew.
Love you, buddy. I love you too. Appreciate you.
Man, oh man. Pastor Drew, he's smooth, I'm going to tell you. Yeah, he always builds me up, but we always build him up. He don't know that. Now, when it's just us guys, we pick at him a little bit, just about the regular stuff. But he may be a lot younger than us, and we may have a lot more years on him. And I think this is probably my 30th year of being a senior pastor. But we still look up to Drew. He's just smart. I mean, he just is. He's just one of them guys that's really smart. And he's so smart that it won't be long he'll have his doctorate, an earned doctorate. And that's what I told the early service. We have a lot in common because I didn't make it through the 10th grade, but I got there. As far as I got. I'm just telling you the truth about it. I don't cut no corners. And I was going to get my GED, but I couldn't spell it. I didn't ever get it. I really didn't. I dropped out of school in 10th grade, and I never looked back. I am proof you can still be successful without an education somehow, some way. I don't know how I did it, but yeah, when I grew up, it was real dysfunctional, and I couldn't wait to leave home. I run away a few times, and then I'd always have to go back, but I hated living at home. It was a terrible place to live. And I didn't grow up in church. Didn't have really any direction. I don't know if you've ever grown up like that or known of someone that grew up like that, but it was really messed up, and I could not wait to leave permanently. So when I was 16, I left out. I had one brother leave when he was 12 and another leave when he was 16, and I had another one die a year ago today because he was cooking meth and working on his truck and tie rod in. He didn't put the nuts back on it, and he run off the road and killed himself. I come from a rough family, but I am proof that with the Lord's help, that God can do anything for you. He can do anything through you, anything with you, if you allow him to do that. So you have a wonderful, wonderful pastor, as you know, and his precious wife. She's sweet as can be. Most of the time, she's pretty nice, right, Drew? Okay, I'm married too, so I understand. Most of the time, it goes pretty good. And they got a little girl. Now, I'm in grandkid years, you know what I mean? I know I look like I'm 25, but I'm not. I'm almost 53, and I'm fat, and I'm tired, and I get grumpy. And my church is like, man, by that second service, I don't know what it is. It's just that I want to spend more time with my grandkids. You just get to where, and I think mine are the most beautiful. I got a set of twin boys that are 5 that I'm telling you are the greatest thing ever. And now a little granddaughter, which you don't want to play favorites, but she always smells better. She looks better. And she's about to be 9 months old with a great personality. And some of the best years of my life I'm in right now. Really, because we got our 4 kids raised and they all done great. They're all in church. That's how you want to feel successful. And we've got a really good church and we work hard at it. Now, your pastors, he's not scared to ask questions. All right, now he's the one about to have a doctorate now and he's asking me. I don't even have a GED. He's asking me. Here's the thing. You can still be successful, and I've had to learn a lot of things the hard way as our church grew. I mean, like in the gutter, I've had to learn it the tough way of what not to do because, out in West Tennessee, there's not anything like that, of that size. So I'm always depending over here and trying to sneak in, find out what Drew and Stephanie's doing. So then I'll know what I need to do, and he probably does the same with us because you can pick up good things. But he's smart enough not to be prideful. Prideful people don't ask questions. I like it when someone says, well, let me ask you how you do your Celebrate Recovery and how that works on Thursday nights versus, because, I plan ahead, but not as far as he does. He's years ahead. He's probably in 2032 right now or something? I don't plan that far ahead. He's planning for Mother's Day next year already. I told him I don't even know if my mother will be alive by then. I have no idea. I'm not going to waste the time to study for one a year ahead of time, you know what I mean? But either way, he's always thinking ahead, and I love the vision that he always has for the church. Who wants to stay the same? I like pioneers myself. I like a pioneer spirit. I've always been one that like adventure. I like a challenge. I liked it right out of the gate. I guess when I started pastoring my first church, I was 23. Lord, I thought I was 43. I didn't know any different. I grew up when you're 10 years old, you're kind of like a man. Yeah, it was different. I seen a meme the other day, and it was this dad in 1980 waking up his son to go fishing. He's like, boy, get up. You got 4 minutes to get ready, and you got chores to do too. I'm going fishing. If you want to go, get in the truck. That's how it was, 70s and 80s. And then now they're like, sweetheart, it's 4 p.m. in the afternoon. Do you want to go fishing with Daddy? No, not in the Metroverse, in the real world. We're going to go fishing in there. It's totally different, and I understand that. And as things change and times change, but I'm a little rough around the edges, and I appreciate pioneers that have went on before. One of the first things your pastor showed me today was the beginning. And I love that because, no man's an island. No man comes in and says, no, this is what I did. It's so cool because he recognizes and appreciates what was here before him, and then you build on to that. That's because he's not insecure. When you're not insecure, you can, validate other people and say, let me show you. This is where we've come from. This was awesome. This was great. They had to baptize in the creek. And you go all the way through. And this pastor was here this long, and Brother Lee was here 40-something years, and and then here I am. I'm just here to add to it. That's because he's smart. He knows how to do that. And I'm so glad that you work with him to do something special here. You're pioneering something different. Your church DNA is somewhat different, somewhat like our church. And I'm fine with that because, even on our state council, you have guys sitting in there that, little churches, big churches, degrees, no degrees. Yeah, just the whole thing. And I love it when I go into my church and I've got an inflow of Filipinos that's coming. We're not just all white over there. I just want you to know that. We have a lot of Latinos. We have several people that I'm not even sure. We've got kids that are mixed with so much stuff we don't even know, and I don't think they know, but we're cool with that. We're all cool with that. It doesn't matter. One of the guys that goes to my church, he's a black guy. He came up to me the other day and he said, Pastor, you got your black card. I said, how'd I get that? He said, you had KFC delivered up on the stage on Pastor Appreciation Day. I like KFC. I can't help I'm white. I just had made mention that, if somebody even thought about going to Dyersburg and getting a bucket of KFC, it'd make me happy. That's all I asked for. That's all I wanted for Pastor Appreciation Day. I love the stuff. When I showed up in your town last night, I got another bucket. You don't get this big not eating fried chicken. But yeah. And he said, I want to tell you something else. He said, I appreciate that you got some people of color up on the stage singing. They're up there because they can sing. But it's so cool because at my church, I'll be honest, I got some people with money, like big time money. But we don't care. I don't treat them any different. I'm just as rough on them as I am the rest of them. Because I got folks I got one guy, he's been living in his car for a while. Finally got him a place to live. I had 7 families in a motel 6 weeks ago because of flooding. And it doesn't matter in my church. You may have an airplane sitting at the airport and living in a mansion, and you're sitting right by a guy that was homeless last week. And, it's just how it is. But I love it like that. I love it like that because then you can reach out to try to help someone. When I first started going to church, I was homeless myself. I did not want to live at home. I didn't want to go to school. I was just going to, make a living selling dope, smoking dope, stealing stuff, whatever. I was just a wild man. And a girl invited me to church. I ain't never been to church, and I sure wasn't going to go to no church. But you get to the bottom enough, and you ain't got nothing else to do because you done lost your job, and you have nothing to do, and you think, I might just slide on over here to this church house because I already knew them people. My dad had told me when I was a kid, that's just where people that's got their life together, that's where they go, and that was always my mentality. And you got to dress good. You got to, it's like a social thing, it was kind of shunned, and so, I don't know, I was on my own, so I decided I'd go, and it was different. It was different. They got up and read out of this old red book, and I couldn't follow along because they didn't just read it straight down. They read a line, jump a line, read a line, jump a line. If you ever seen a redback hymnal, if not, you're just as confused as I was. Some guy started spouting off some Spanish in front of me, and I was like, man, this Spaniard stood up and just talked to everybody. And then they told me he was speaking in tongues. He was like a white fisherman from down the road, and he wasn't even Hispanic. But that's what I got out of it, but he was speaking in tongues. I didn't understand it at all. And then for the next few weeks, it was pretty interesting because I was trying to figure out who the pastor was talking about. There was a sinner in the house somewhere, and I was looking out for him too, and it took me a couple months to realize chances are it must be me with 20 or 30 people here every service, and I'm the only guy in here with the ponytail and smokes weed, and I checked people's cars to make sure they were locked to see if they had any change in them. I'm probably the guy he's talking about, and I went up front, and I'll never forget it. He's like, Robin, what do you want? He just gave this altar call, and I've seen people go up front, fall down, all kinds of stuff, holler, scream, cry. Some of them hold real still. So after a couple months, I thought, I'm going to go up front. So I walked up front, and I'm the only one, of course. Nobody wanted to go that. I don't know why. Wednesday night, you know how they are. Rick's here. I'm there. He's like, Robin, what do you want? I said, this is what I said. I want to get saved or whatever that stuff is. That's what I want. I want to, do that. You know what I'm talking about? He's like, are you sure you know what you're thinking about and what you're talking about? I said, I don't know exactly what it's all about, but I'm tired of living the way I'm living. Because the way I'm living, the way of the transgressor is very hard. It's very difficult. And he prayed a little prayer with me, and I said, let me know what you want me to do Sunday. He said, we got to get you baptized, boy. And he gave me a job working the front door. And that's what I did. I had an issue since I was homeless. I didn't have much money and didn't have much food and didn't have any clothes. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's not a fun place to be. And just by pride itself, you don't want anybody to know that. You don't just walk in and say, oh, yeah, I'm a guy living down the barn. I lived in a tent for the 3 months before that. You don't just tell them that because you have a sense of pride. But they could probably tell I was in rough shape because I didn't wear a shirt when I went to church at all. Well, I didn't have this belly then, When you're homeless, you're pretty skinny most of the time. And, yeah, and this is the truth. I told him in the early service, I found a shirt in an old truck that I'd borrowed because I'd totaled out all my stuff and everything else I borrowed from everybody else. It had a Coors Light shirt in it, And that's what I wore to church, was that Coors Light, that beer shirt. That's all I had. Just waiting for somebody to say something. Just waiting. Nobody said nothing. I mean, the first time I walked into a church, I remember thinking, somebody's going to say something to me, and I'll just flip them off or cuss them, and I'll just leave. That was the plan. That was the plan until I got there and they were nice. And it really messed things up. I'm telling you. I stood out there, got my hair all pulled back in a ponytail, smoked about 5 cigarettes, nervous as can be, and finally got up the courage to go, and everybody was so nice to me. And I remember thinking, boy, if they find out how rough I am, I done checked them cars, they probably won't feel the same about me. And they was just nice to me. They just killed me with kindness and with love. And here I was, nobody, and made me feel like, I don't know, like there was hope, like I had a chance. That I always knew I'd end up dead by the time I was 20 or in prison, or dead in prison or something, because of the way I always done things and the way I lived. And I was pretty slick, but not slick enough to lose my driver's license. You know, the whole story. Ended up as a juvenile in jail. They can only hold you 23 hours, and somebody's got to come get you. And I'd done been drugged through the system. They get all tore up now about kids bringing knives and guns to school. I can't remember not going without a knife ever. You had to have a shank. It's funny now because I got a guy in my church that works at the prison. I have him collect shanks for me, just for my office. You're thinking, why? They just really look neat. They just look neat. They took me to jail one time. I had a gun with me in school. I wasn't going to kill nobody. I wasn't going to shoot nobody. It was just nice to have one, you know. They didn't think it was a good idea either. But anyway, I stayed in trouble all the time, and then here I am now. I'm going to church. And I tell them, I got pulled over lots of times, so many times, and they all knew me. They pulled me over on the way to church, and I had borrowed this old drunk guy's truck. He found me in a field one night. I went out the back window. That's what happened. All these spots all over my face. I went out the back window of a car. I went out the side window one time of another car, but the window was down. This one wasn't down, let me just tell you. I face planted out through the back and it slung me out in the field, and this old drunk come up to me, started witnessing to me when I wasn't even going to church, and told me the angels of God must have picked me up and brought me over that ditch. The next day I seen it was a big fence post I centered and sent that car flying, and it sent me out the back. That guy was crazy enough to let me borrow his truck a few days later. I'm going to church. I get pulled over, and I tell the officer, he's like, "Where are you going, Robin?" I said, "I'm going to church." He knew that was a lie. But I really was going. I said, "What'd you pull me over for?" He said, "Them tail lights." I said, "I got one out." He said, "You don't have any. You have nothing." I was like, "Sure enough, there's big holes in the back of that truck. There was nothing back, and you put your arm up in it, you know." He let me go and told me get to church. But when I got saved, I hated the fact that I grew up so rough, but God used it really to my advantage. It's like when I was a kid, I always hated having this cowlick. Now it's the greatest thing a preacher can have. Pastor Drew wants one, you know, just a natural cowlick. It's just, yeah, I hated this. And then now, I mean, look at that, Drew. That's great, ain't it? It just fits perfect, you know. So since I grew up rough, I always thought, you know, I would be destined. You know, one time I just thought I was destined to fail. You know, all my life, my dad always told me, "You're a stupid little SOB." You know, that kind of negative stuff. He was rough. His daddy was rough. They ruled with a boot in your butt and a fist or a belt or just, you know, I mean, it was bad. And he didn't do drugs, didn't drink. My father was just a real abusive type person. So growing up in that, I was scared to have children, thinking, will I be that abusive? His father was abusive. He was extremely abusive. Am I going to? All that changed when I got saved. Every bit of it did. It all changed. God softened my heart. I looked at things differently. All that anger, all that hatred. But going through the gutter rough has helped me as a pastor to understand the other side of things. So sometimes it's hard. It's hard to be able to relate unless you've ever been there when someone says, "Pastor, I know you don't know nothing about this, but our house is kind of messed up right now." A lady told me the other day, she said, "Me and my husband, we live in the house together and we raise the kids, but our ex-husband also lives in the same house with us." I'm like, "You think that's messed up?" When I was a kid, my mother always took us to the bar. Always. In the 70s, you could do that kind of stuff. You got kids, you got things to do, you're prostituting out of the bar, you got to bring your kids. That's how you do it. So me and my older brother and younger brother would just go and she'd do her business and pick up her Johns or whatever. I mean, it was just business. That's just how it was. You had to have money for drugs because she was a drug addict and alcoholic. She was. And that's just how life was. But one time, one of them drunks cornered me over there in that bar when I was about 6, 7 years old. And he's like, boy, what are you going to be when you grow up? And I said, a preacher. I'd never met one. I'd never been to church. I didn't know any Bible stories. But I just, in my mind, by that time, I think I just thought and realized preachers are good people. They're good people. I didn't like the cops, but I like preachers. They were good people, good people. And he'd say, well, preach something to me, Lord. I didn't know the difference between the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. I mean, zilch, zero. I remember just sitting on the edge of my seat, Pastor Drew, for the first year while my preacher preached because I ain't never heard none of this stuff. Zero. If you'd asked me when I was 15, 16 years old who Noah was, I have no idea. I don't know nothing about a boat, and I don't know nothing about 2x2. I don't know nothing about none of it. If you don't know, you just don't know. And there's so many people to reach out here that you think they know and they don't. They have no idea. But to be able to get a glimpse and a vision of what it can become, and if you've come out of dysfunction or you're struggling right now, working your way out of dysfunction, you're going to understand and appreciate this little message. And I'm going to try to do it quick. The scripture says in 2 Samuel chapter 5, it begins, and I'll paraphrase it like I did this morning because it takes a while to read it. You can pick up on and read it. David, he wants to go in and take over Jerusalem. He wants his men to go with him. He has a vision from God, not detailed, because God normally don't work in just great detail. He'll give you a vision, and you'll just get little glimpses of it. You'll just get like little pieces of stuff. I guarantee you that just that little glimpse sometimes your pastor will get. Like he'll notice things you don't notice. I notice like when somebody comes to the altar and they've never come to the altar. It was a vision I'd had that they would be delivered and they'd be saved, blah, blah, blah. And then just to catch a little bit of a glimpse, like, guess what? They come to Sunday school today. They never come to Sunday school. There's just a little glimpse that you got, And God gave David just a little glimpse of what he could do. He was anointed as a young man to be the king, but it's going to take some time. It's going to take some years for him to get to where he needs to be. And then he gets there, and he wants something better. And he says, let's go up into Jerusalem, and let's take it. But the walls are too high. He's got a vision. He knows he wants it. It's not going to be easy on you. You get in your mind, what we're going to do? We're going to start going to church every Sunday. The devil will fight you over that every time. Kids get sick on Saturday night. You know how many people I got to miss on Sunday, go to work on Monday? And I'm trying to be nice. If you'll do what you want to do, but you got to get your want to where you want to do it. You got this glimpse of, I wish my whole family was in church. Well, it starts with you. You show up every single time, no matter what. And if I'm not here, I'll let the pastor know. Yeah, it's only right, because if not, then we worry about you and wonder about you and hate to pry. But then if we don't ask, you didn't even ask where I was at, So you're not going to be here, you tell them. But you start out with that vision and with that goal. Now, it'll be a struggle because as soon as you make your mind up, I'm going to be dedicated and faithful, we're going to start paying our tithes because you want the curse off of you. I don't want a curse on me. My pastor, when I was a teenager, taught me to pay my tithes. I ain't never heard nothing like this. But now, I'll just tell you this, I'm not a broke man. And that's not just because of church stuff. I'm blessed with what I've got. I'm blessed where I live. And the Lord's been really good to me because I learned to pay my tithes. I had to make my mind up, do I want a blessing of God or a curse? How does it work, Pastor? I have no idea. You'll have to ask Pastor Drew. He's the one with the doctorate coming up, not me. All I know is God said do it, I do it, and I give an offering on top of it. And somehow, everything always works out. Now, my stuff breaks down just like yours and everybody else's, and you got to buy new. But it's all okay. I learned God's system. So that was a glimpse and a vision I had as a young man, like, dude, I want what he's got. Because if he grew up and spent 3 weeks in a insane asylum And he was drug all over the place, and he done this and he done that, but now he's got a family, and I thought, that's what I want. You got to live in such a way that people want what you got, that they value that. You know, you think you're ashamed of your old gutter days or your old rough days. You can outlive that to where people, they're like, let me tell you, I knew them back when they was on the stuff. I knew them back when you couldn't leave a $100 bill laying around them because they'd steal it. I knew them back in the day when you better lock your car. I knew them back in the day you better keep your wife away from them. I knew them back in the day when things was really bad. But look at them now. And that's what you want when you get that glimpse and that vision of it. So David marches them in and says, guys, there's no way. We got to go up. It's going to be a fight. It's going to be tough. And there's ain't but one way it can work, and that is we're going to have to drop down in this water cistern and go up through this gutter pipe one at a time. And the gutter pipe's large, but only large enough for one man. And it's slick, and it's muddy, and it's nasty. Ain't there a better way to go up? I don't know of one. There's no magic potion to this stuff. There's no easy way. When people get saved in my church, I don't say, it's going to be easy for you. No, it's going to be rough on you. It is. It's going to be rough on you. It needs to be rough on you. You're going to have to get church hurt. You know? Anybody ever been church hurt? You ever get Walmart hurt and not go back? I got McDonald's hurt one time. Lady hurt my feelings. And I told my wife, I said, I guess I'm McDonald's hurt from here all over America. Yeah, right. I went right back to McDonald's like it wasn't no big deal. You don't get church hurt or McDonald's hurt or Dollar General hurt. I'm never going back to another one. Okay, I've been hurt drastically in church before. But that ain't God's fault. That was just a couple idiots that went there. That's all it was. You got to just see it for what it is and go, yep, just a couple idiots that went there. It wasn't the whole church. It's just a couple idiots that went there. I'll point them out to you if you want me to. You know, whatever it takes. David gets these guys together and says, now, this is going to come with a fight. It's going to be a struggle. But if you want to go to the top, you can't just talk this stuff. Because you always got somebody walking around, they're all bad. I'm going to whoop their butt. I'm going to do this. I'm going to fight. Oh, really? Get up the gutter and let's see what you got. That's like the little dude told the big giant man, said, if I was as big as you, I'd go find the biggest alligator in the swamp and I'd wrestle him down. He said, well, there's little alligators out there too. You know? If you want this, and you want success, God gave you a little glimpse and a vision of what you can have. Don't you ever sit around and ever think you can't have it. You can have what God said you can have, and you can do what he said you can do. Don't underestimate yourself. Don't say, yeah, but you don't understand who my daddy was, my mama was. You don't understand how many times I've been married. You know, I married a gal one time years ago. I think it was her 7th. That's like state law. She done run out, you know. I told her, I said, you realize this is it. You know, I don't know if it was her, him, them, what, I don't know. But you know, it stuck. It's been 30-something years. She's still been married to the same guy. Number 7, but she got it worked out, you know. She got it worked out. Don't let that stuff hold you back. I mean, you go to a church where, you know, they're not going to pick you to death. Nobody likes things like that, but it's okay. I had a couple going to my church for years, and oh my gosh, they couldn't get it together, and they filed bankruptcy and lost everything, only to get back on their feet and file bankruptcy again. And I finally had a long talk with them. Start paying your tithes. Pay them regular. I'm telling you, you pay them regular and you give an offering and you live right, and this stuff will stop. And it stopped. And when they bought them a house and got them, they're driving a better car than I'm driving. I gave them too good of advice or something. But you know how much that, it was a fight, it was a struggle. You got to get past your pride. But you can have that house. That's not prosperity preaching. It's just why we always rented growing up. I mean, we rented dumps. I mean, dumps. You get in that mentality sometimes. I grew up on food stamps. If you're on them, you're on them. Okay, thank God for the help. But in my mentality when I was a kid, I'll always have to rent a house. I'll always have to steal. I always have to be on food stamps. I'm always going to have to trust in the government. I'm always going to, and that broke when I got saved. And it got much better. There's a better way. There is a better way. Now, if you got to be on them, I got people in my church, they have to. That's the only way they can survive. Because they have disabilities, because of their age. And I always tell them, stay on them. You ain't got to come off that. But if you're working age and you can do something about it, say, I'm going to do my best, because my family was just always hooked on the system. And when I got saved, I thought there's got to be a better way because there's other people that are coming off the system. And you can. And you can have what God said you can have. You can have a good family. I don't care how messed up it is. And this is your stepdaughter, that's your stepson, whatever. You can still work in harmony, but it's going to be a struggle. He tells these guys, listen, all this water's come down through these gutters and went into the cistern. Now we're in the cistern and we got to go up. And you're going to have to do this one at a time. I hate one at a time. It's tough. You're going to feel alone. You're going to feel lonely. You're not going to look too dignified. You know, people want to get to the top. Every year somebody gets mad because they don't make it on a board or they didn't make it on a state council or, you know, when it's your time, it's your time. If it's not, then it's not. And for some reason, some people think, hey, I've already put in a couple years. I ought to be running this place. It ain't the Waffle House, okay? You could probably run the Waffle House in 2 years probably. But there's some things you're going to have to really put your time into. If you want it, you're going to have to put some years into it. And it will help with your credibility. And nobody called me when I had 30 people wanting to hold a revival because they know we didn't have no money. They start calling you when you start clicking 400, 500, 600. Oh, they all love you. They all want to be your friends on Facebook. I'm like, where was you way back, you know? Because they want to get to the top or they want to go somewhere bigger, quicker. But some things take time. And it's been a struggle. But don't look down at yourself for that and say, yeah, they don't know what I've struggled with. It's okay. God knows what you've struggled with. He knows what you still are struggling with. That gutter, you wouldn't think you'd ever find anything in it, you know, because it's just a gutter. And them gutters, you know, were a lot bigger because they'd catch rainwater from the city and it'd go down that gutter system, dump into that cistern that was underground, and it would hold water for them in case they were sieged upon. They could close the gates and still have water for a long time because the cisterns caught that rainwater. But the gutter, not a real good place. You know, it's stanky. It's slimy. It's where leaves come down and water comes down and mold and moss. And if you want to stay dignified, you're probably not going to make it to the top. It's ugly sometimes. You remember back when people used to get saved and they'd come to the altar and they would cry. And if they're a woman, well, nowadays if they're a man, some of them. But anyway, mascara going everywhere. Don't even get me started. I'm being nice because I'm in his church. Yeah. And nowadays, you know, they want to get saved. I don't know about you, but I fell on my knees and said, God, I don't want to go to hell. But nowadays, even in my church, they come up and they go, yes, could you pray for me that I would, you know, I'm like, what? Yeah, I need you to pray a prayer of salvation over me and sprinkle me. It don't work that way. We believe in immersion. And I think if you're really, truly repentant of your sins, there ought to be a tear somewhere. You could have jerked a nose hair or something just to get it flowing maybe. I don't know. But you remember when people used to really, truly repent of their sins and cry out to God. And I mean, it was, but now we have to be dignified and we don't want to mess our shoes up. We don't want to mess our hair up. And we don't want anybody to think that some of them come to my church just because it's Pentecostal, because it's a cool church to go to now. And they don't want nothing to do with it at all. Because you got to stay dignified. You know, you got to look like you always have it together. When you're in the gutter, you don't always have it together. And it's a dirty place, and it's a stinky place, and it's a nasty place, and it ain't no fun. And you just hope and pray that somebody's in front of you, that you can grab onto their heel and pull yourself up a little bit. And you hope that somebody's down below you that'll give you a shove and give you a little bit of a push. What do you find in the gutter? Why would you look there? That's where I got my grit, I can tell you that. I didn't get my grit on good times. I got it in the gutter when I was fighting for my life to keep my head up. That's what happened. Yeah. When I was a sinner and even after I got saved, nobody even honestly come against me until I tried to start doing some ministry. And then, then I found out just how rough Pentecostals can be. Yes, they're a little more emotional than others, have a lot of passion, and they'll tell you what for real quick. But now back when I was just old Robino coming to church, not doing ministry, I was just like one of them. Everything was great until I started doing ministry. You'll notice Samson went through the same thing when he started doing things for God. His family turned on him. I got saved as a teenager, and I hadn't seen my dad in a few years, and I run into him at the gas station. He said, "Son, where you been?" Yes, 2 years later. I'm living 20 minutes down the road, and I told him that I'd got saved and got in church. He was very disappointed. Who in the world gets disappointed because their wayward child gets in church and does things for God? That's just that mentality. It come with a struggle. It come with a fight. It's going to. When you need deliverance from something, when you're trying to get through something, you're trying to get somewhere, it starts with just a little bit of a vision, a little bit of a glimpse into the unknown, and you think, maybe I could do that. And then something happens and the car breaks down. I was just thinking the other day, maybe I could buy my wife a better car. I'm driving down the road and my transmission comes out of my truck. Forget that. Got to have a transmission now. It's just part of life. But I have found this. I've always been faithful to God, and I got an extra vehicle to drive. Never had that before. It's good to have it. They say, boy, it must be nice to be a preacher. Try it sometime. You try it sometime. You try it sometime. I would love for you to. It ought to be mandatory that everyone pastor a church for a month. I want to tell you something. If you pastor this church right here for a month, and this is a good church. I know it's a good church. Preachers know good churches. There's some rough ones out there. This is a good one. But if you pastor this church for 1 month, next Pastor Appreciation Day, you would look at it so much different. When you let something that you do eat at you 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. I wake up in the morning thinking about my church. I go to bed at night thinking about my church. I woke up at 4:30 this morning thinking about my church. And that's all you do, and you grind it out 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Your whole life wraps around that. And somehow I juggled raising 4 kids that now I wish I'd have put more time into them even more than my church, because the church, as it gets bigger, man, they'll suck down every last week and second you got. I don't understand why I can't get a hold of Pastor Drew. That's because he's got a little girl. Leave him alone. That's right. That's because he's got a wife. You got your family. I pastored for 21 years, and my wife left me, walked out on me. You talk about grinding it out. It like to killed me. Yes. You know why she left? Because that's all I did was church, 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 and church. And she said, I'm done with it. Yeah. Now, I'm going to tell you, she left. I hated it. I cried, sat around for a few months. Really married up the second time. They said, you believe in second marriages? Yeah, you ought to see her. I sure do. She's a great woman. She's a great woman. Hey, the first one, if you're gone, you're gone. Okay, it just, But one that loves ministry. But I learned something in them 21 years. You cannot put your church before your family. Here I was doing so good. This was growing, whatever, and lost my own family. I'm just being real with you. I'm just being transparent with you. It's part of it. It's part of the fight. It's part of the struggle. Don't get the cart before the horse. But as you struggle to get to the top, know that you're not the first one to go up through that gutter, and you ain't going to be the last one. But if you don't make it to the top, everybody behind you fails. You see? You've got to make it. You have to. If you got this little vision in your mind, I'd like to see all my family in church, then don't you ever miss a service for one. You make sure if somebody's going to break into your house, they know for sure Wednesday night you're never home. They know for sure on Sunday morning. I'll guarantee you they will not be there because you're that dedicated and that dedicated, that dedicated. When I first got in church, it was with a bunch of dedicated people. And they was pretty old school. I'm pretty old school. When I do my notes, they take a tree and they cut it down and slice it thin and make it yellow, and I write on it. That's how sophisticated I am. These guys now, they get up here and they lay something down. I don't know if Drew does, but if you do, Pastor Drew, forgive me. And they're like, yeah, what if the battery goes dead? Batteries don't go dead on a piece of paper. And I'm not going to change. I'm going to keep it. But that generation that come before me even, they was tough. And the reason they were tough, and I know where they got it in the gutter. They got it from, that's where they learned how to pray. When there wasn't money to bring their kid to the doctor, that's where they learned to pray. They had to pray. We're in the gutter. The baby's sick. The baby's got a fever. We can't afford to take it to the doctor. They take it to the preacher. They take it to the church, and then they just pray. And that's how they did it. That's where you learn to pray. It's where you get your fire. That's where you get your anointing from God. That's when you get what you need from God. When you say, I'm not in a real good place. It's not a pretty place. It's kind of ugly. If you're going to come over, I wish you'd call first or text. We got to clean this house up. It's a mess. I got kids, got grandkids. It's just part of life. You're just in a struggle. But I want to tell you, when you start getting to the top of that and you start seeing the light of day, it ain't over. You still got a fight on your hands. But you'll know what made you was that struggle to get you to the top. You'll know that's what made you. It was God the whole time shaping you and forming you, just like he done so many in the Bible. Joseph, he was going to be something great, but not for about 20 years you ain't. You got to learn some things. David, you're going to be the king, but not yet. You got to go through the gutter. You got to learn some things. At your age right now, you're the best you've ever been right now. When women come in my office and they start griping, they go, do something with my husband. I said, give him time. Men normally get better with age. He's going to grow out of it. Talk positive to him. Tell him, I'm with you on this. We're going to make it together. Just give it some time. Are you what you want to be right now? Are you that person? If you're not, you can start working on it, and you can start working on it today. Don't despise it. Thank God for the gutter. That's where you really found yourself. Let's stand this morning. I'll pray a little prayer with you. I'll turn it over to your pastor. Father, I pray for this church. Their leadership is absolutely amazing. I know that their pastor and his wife, they love everyone here. I hear him always talk so highly of his church, how well they work together in unity. The harmony of this church is amazing, that you can take us from so many different backgrounds, so many different lifestyles, and you help us, and it's just a beautiful thing to be a family. I pray a blessing over this assembly. Not just this whole building, but over the church itself. And over Pastor Drew and Stephanie. I'm praying that you'll always give them glimpses and of visions of what this church needs to be and what it can do. Today, if anyone's here and they're lost, I'm praying that you'll save them. I'm praying if someone needs to start over, let them start over today. Lord, you are the best at building things back. And you are the best at restoration. Lord, have your way. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Come on, Pastor Drew. I'll hand this over to you. You do what you want to do. Give your pastor a hand. He's a great man. Love you, buddy.
I believe the Lord's spoken to us today. And as they sing, I want to invite you. If you found yourself in the gutter, if you found yourself in a struggle and you want God to bring you out of that, for God to bring you to where He wants you to be in your life, I want to encourage you to come and pray this morning. Leave that gutter behind and say, you know what? God used the process to get me where I am, but the Lord's bringing me to something great. That's you today. Let the Lord minister to you as they sing. Go ahead.
Oh, my words fall short. I got nothing new. How could I express all my gratitude? I could sing these songs